Hi, welcome back to Therapy Designs. If you're new to this channel, my name is Kelly, and this channel is all about teaching you how to create print-on-demand designs using Canva. So if that is something that you're interested in, please do stick around. So in today's video, I'm going to be going over how to create this design right here. This one says Bionic Hip Club. It's a really fun design for anybody who's had a total hip arthroplasty, especially a bilateral total hip arthroplasty. It is more common than you think. As some of you may know if you've been watching any of my videos in the past, I am a doctor of physical therapy. This is how I started, and so I started off making just mostly medical or physical therapy based designs. I do notice in my practice that we get a lot of, total hip replacements. Joint replacements are very popular, especially among the older people, but even some of the younger people, it's starting to be more common. And so this is a fun shirt that you could give to somebody as almost a get well shirt, or that you could wear yourself if you were having a hip replacement. It's a fun one that you could wear to physical therapy to be funny. And so if you'd like to learn how to do this design or this particular niche, go ahead and stick around. So as always, we're just going to go ahead and start with our blank backdrop. It is 4500 by 5400 pixels. I am going to be designing for black, so I'm just going to go ahead and select my blank canvas, go up to the top left-hand corner and select my background color. And so here's what I'm starting with for today's design. I'm going to do sort of a funny hip replacement design. It's going to say Bionic Hip Club, and I'm hoping to get some cool graphics that have a nice pelvis and hip replacement and, just give it sort of that cool bionic look. So I'm going to go ahead and start by trying to find a nice pelvis. So I'm going to go over to the left-hand corner here. I'm going to come up to Elements. I did already do a search of this, by the way, so that it wouldn't take me too long. But I'll just show you right here. If I was to put pelvis in here, I am looking, there's some photos, there's some graphics, lots of fun ways that you can go with this. So depending on what your style is, if we're going for more of a photo style or more of a graphic style, there are some fun graphics here that look relatively good. So that's a relatively good looking pelvis there. That one looks okay. And so that one might be a good one to use. Some of these look obviously really, fake. So like that one looks just really fake and corny. So I guess it depends how accurate you want this design to be, whether or not you want it to be anatomically accurate or whether you're just going for more of a funny cartoon sort of look. So lots of different ways. Here's another one that I've seen a lot of. And so those are different, graphic style pelvises that you can use. I want to go with, I saw a really cool one in photos, so I'm just going to go ahead and go with photos, and I liked this, so I liked the x-ray look. And of course you can go ahead and search for x-ray too, or search for skeleton or bone model. So there's a lot of different ones here that are also kind of cool. That one's kind of creepy looking. Okay. I do like this one here though. So this is the one that I'm going to go with. But as you can see, there's a lot of different, there's a general x-ray, another x-ray, lots of x-rays here. X-rays might be a little tough to work with because it's going to be hard to do a background removal on these if you want to. Something with sharp edges like this is going to be a little bit easier to do a background removal. That one might work too because this one's got some nice sharp edges as well. So this one might also work really well as a background removal one. And so you can just sort of play with these and see what's going to work best with you. I'm going to go with this one because I really liked I like the style. I like the look of it. It gives it that sort of bionic look that I'm going with. Now, right now it's sitting on a black background, and to make it so that you can see it, I'm going to change the background color of my my page temporarily just so I can see. So I'm just going to bring it down one shade. And so now we can see the background here. So the first thing I want to do is see if I can get a good background removal on this. So I'm going to go ahead, hit edit image. And we are going to see if I can get a background removal and see if that works well. And so fingers crossed, this looks pretty cool. All right, awesome. So that actually worked really good. I mean, that looked even better than I hoped it would. That really did do a good job. So I'm going to go ahead and hit apply. So that came out perfect. Pleasantly surprised by that. I thought there might have to be some manual erasing and restoring kind of work, but right now that looks real good. So hopefully I don't lose it anywhere. I'm going to go ahead and keep it there. And so now what I'm looking for is going to be some hip prosthetics, because I want to give this the look as though it's got, you know, a joint replacement. So I can put hip replacement, hip prosthetic, hip implant. I did a lot of these the other night looking for, you know, some good implants. Again, there's some good x-ray ones. Here's ones, but they're missing the ball. So that's just the femoral compartment. Some of these are tooth implants, so I'm kind of losing the hip there. What I'm hoping to get is, you know, the implant that has the femoral head on it. Not necessarily the acetabular component. That one does have the acetabular component, which is the round socket. So most of these are teeth implants. Let's go ahead and try hip replacement. And so there we can see a hip replacement here. Here's another hip replacement, and this one actually shows the whole thing. So I could try to do a background removal here and just try to get the implant. It would require some manual, you know, erasing, because all of the bones would stay in here. But I could do that. Here's another one where, again, I could just try to erase the x-ray and keep sort of this red image here. And so lots of different ways we could go with trying to get an image of the implant. Here's one, but it's disarticulated, and so that won't really do me any good. If it's disarticulated, I need it to look like a, you know, an actual implant that's implanted. But lots of x-rays we could go with. You know, if you find one that you think might look easier than others to do a background removal on, you could definitely do that. I'd love to find one that's just, you know, sitting on a table but intact. That would be the easiest way to go, and I actually did find one of those earlier. I just have to re-find it. Here again is more of the femoral compartment. Okay, well, I'm going to go up to my recently used, because I've already found what I wanted. It took me a while of scrolling, so the one that I found that I thought would be the easiest to work with, over here, if I scroll down my recently used, I found this one here. And so this one here I liked because it was solid, it was already articulated, and it has a clean background that will be easy to remove. So I'm going to go ahead and go with this one. I'm going to edit image, I'm going to do background removal. I'm going to give it a second. Perfect. Okay, so that also came out really well. I'm going to hit apply, and I'm going to give it a second. And I'm going to go ahead and use this. Honestly, I'm going to do both sides. I'm going to make this a bilateral hip replacement, and I'm just going to do a little flip and put it on both sides. And so that will be easy enough to do. So I will bring this down. I'm going to rotate it. I'm going to go ahead. Let me get it the way I want it, and then I'll do a duplicate. So that'll probably be the easiest. So I'm going to go ahead and bring it up, and I want to place it, you know, more or less how it would sit within the joint. And so obviously the femoral compartment, I want it to be a little bit more vertical and maybe down just a little bit. So I like the way that looks. That fits pretty well in there. And so that looks pretty nice. I don't actually want my implant to stick out at the bottom of my x-ray, because that would look silly. So as long as it's just barely fitting in, I like it. I'm going to go ahead, hit Control D. I'm going to make another one for the other side. Let's go ahead and do a little flip here. I'm going to have to put the angle back so that it'll work with this hip too, hopefully. I want the femoral compartment to be more or less vertical. Let's see if I can get this so it actually, not too bad. Okay, so that actually came out a lot better than I thought it would. So that all fits really well. The implant looks like it's fitting nicely. Obviously, if this was an actual implant, I would no longer have, you know, the x-ray, the bone here. So the head of the femur would have been cut off. I'm not going to bother doing anything to change that here. That would start to get a little bit more complicated if I was trying to literally remove the x-ray part. I could do a background removal and try to remove that, just the head of the femur there on both sides, but that would probably be a little tough to do. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave it here. My guess is people who have had hip replacements don't know exactly what it's supposed to look like, so this is probably good enough. So I like the way that looks. I'm going to go ahead and group this all together. Actually, before I do that, if you want to make any changes to the color here, I can leave it the same color as it was, or I can try to give it more of this sort of bluish tint, and so there's lots of different ways I can go with that. So if I was to go down here, there's duotone I could use, there is photogenic I can use, and so if I wanted to give it more of a cool color, I could do something like that, and so I can sort of change just the tint a little bit if I wanted it to look more blue like it's going in the x-ray, and so I could do it that way. And so you can see side by side, this one's got a little bit more of a blue tint versus this one has a little bit more of a yellow. So if I did want it to look like it was part of the x-ray, I could go ahead and change the colors that way, and I could do it with both of them too. And so let's go ahead and just do the photogenic on this one too, just to give it that sort of blue tint. And I'm pretty sure, where was I? Was I at Arctic or polar? Did I do polar? I think I did polar there. Okay. And then I could also go ahead, do a little contrast on here if I wanted to. I could bring down the saturation if I wanted the ball portion to look a little bit whiter. So lots of different ways. Again, I can play with this just to really make it pop a little bit. So I'm gonna make it a little bit brighter here. I can pull the saturation down a smidge. I can bring the contrast up a smidge. And so now I'm really liking the way that looks. So I got 23, 22, negative 10. I can do the same thing on this side if I wanted to. So if I was to bring that up to 23 and 20 and negative 10, so now it's going to be the same as it is on the other side. Ideally, I would have done all this on one before I duplicated it. That way I had an exact copy, but there you go, you get the idea. And so now that looks really cool. I like the way that the tint actually looks like it goes a little bit more. And so that looks really cool. Now I'm going to go ahead and group it together. So I'm going to go ahead, click anywhere outside of my image. I'm going to drag over the whole thing. And when I do that, up on the top right-hand corner, there's going to be a little thing that comes up. It'll say group. I can hit group. And now I have one really cool image that looks like it's got bilateral hip replacements. And so I do like that a lot. And so now I'm going to go ahead and change my background color, by the way, black to black, so I can really see the way this is looking. And so I really think that pops really cool on a black backdrop. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger here because I do want it to fill a good amount of the page. So let's go ahead and put that. And so now what I want to do in terms of words for this design, it's going to say Bionic Hip Club. And I want to put Bionic up here, Hip Club down here. I want to pick a font that has a little bit of that sort of science fiction-y or, you know, sort of futuristic type font. I want it to look really cool, like it's going to go with Bionic. So if you go ahead and hit T on your keyboard, you will pull up a text box. From here, I'm just going to go ahead and write Bionic. And I can't see it because it's in black, so I'm just going to go ahead and change the color here. And it doesn't matter what color I use, so I'm just going to pick something nice and light so that I can see it. So there is my Bionic. And then I'm going to do this one more time. I'm going to hit T on my keyboard. This time I'm going to put Hip Club. And that is going to go down here. And now I'm going to go ahead and pick some cool fonts. So what I'm looking for is going to be something futuristic. So you can search futuristic, you can search sci-fi, you can search tech or techno. It's going to give you a lot of different, you know, really cool looking styles. So I like that very first one, Mikado, is one that I like to use to give it sort of just a little bit of a futuristic look here. So I like the way that that one looks at the bottom there. but I'm not sure that I like it for the top, so I might still look for some more cool ones for the top. And again, you know, take your time. The right font really does make or break this design, and so there's a lot of just really, you know, cool futuristic type of fonts that you can use. So I like that one there, is kind of cool. Again, you can do sciencey, sci-fi. I mean, I could put sci-fi and see what comes up, or techno and see what comes up. There's going to be a lot of overlap, but you might get more choices one way versus another. So if you're not finding what you're looking for, you know, you can slightly vary the word search that you use. So these all say sci-fi. You know, that one's kind of cool. I kind of like that one. And that actually might be a really cool one to use. There is one that I did get off of Creative Fabrica that I do like to use sometimes. And so that one, if I come down to my Creative Fabrica uploads, the one that I want to use, let's see if I can find it. It's got a very fun, cool look to it. Still scrolling. I have downloaded a lot from Creative Fabrica. I mean, here's one that I think is kind of cool. And that one's sometimes fun, but that's not the one that I'm looking for. I'm going to scroll a little bit more. I know it's down here at the bottom somewhere. Here's another techie one. Not necessarily the techie one I want, but again, lots of fun techno ones. Here's the one I want. Van Gogh Regular. So I do like the Van Gogh Regular to give it sort of that Bionic look. And I am going to go ahead, make it nice and big. Make sure it's kind of centered in my page. And then from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a clipping mask over the text here. I want to give it sort of a silvery sort of look. I mean, so it looks cool like this, but if I wanted to give just sort of a silvery look to the letters, I can do that. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and save this as a frame. So we've done this a lot of times before in other videos. I'm going to put Bionic Hip Club frame, and I'm just going to go ahead and download this right here as a transparent background. Give it a sec, and then we'll go ahead and we'll put a little clipping mask just over the font. So we'll make the font look really kind of cool, silvery. Okay, so now I'm going to go back up to my elements, and I can go ahead and do a search. I can do a search for metal. I can put metal silver, metal gold. I'm looking for photos, and I want something that just has that sort of sheen to it. So any of these would look really cool. Anything that sort of has that silver sheen. I like the pipe because it gives it sort of that nice rounded look. And so here's another one, and this one has sort of a bluish tone to it already. So I like the way that that's got that bluish tone to it. So I might even do something like that. And what I can do is I can shrink this down. I'm going to send Bionic to back, send to back. And I'm going to go ahead and just sort of put my pipe right over the top of it. I can hit Control D and duplicate my pipe. And I can even sort of just crop the edge off there and see if I can line that up a little bit. So I am getting a little bit of a shadowed effect. Not quite lining up exactly as I want. There's a little overlap there, but it's not bad. I can go ahead and go to transparency in the top right hand corner. It looks like a little checkered box. I can bring the transparency down, and when you bring it down, you're going to see how your design lines up on the elements underneath. So what I could do, oops, is just make sure that I've got sort of this lined up the way that I'd like it to be lined up. And if it looks good, I can do something like that. I am going to get a tiny bit of a line through there, but nothing too bad. Again, I can keep looking, see if I can find something else, but I really like the way that looks. So I might even just put metal pipe and try again and see if I come up with anything better. And I'm not liking what came up for metal pipe. This isn't as good as I'd hoped because I'm not getting a close-up, so never mind. Let's just go back to metal. Okay, well, here's some of the shines that I had used before, and I think I probably used this one here because it gave it that sort of light to dark look, sort of like a pipe. And it was going to fit a little bit better so I didn't get that line that I don't necessarily want. Of course, I can still drag this out. Let's see how this would look if I did it like that. And so I do like this. I might just stick with this here because I'm still getting enough contrast. I can always come up to edit image, and again, I can go ahead, add some contrast to it to try to get a little bit more of that line going through. And I can add or get rid of saturation, so I can add saturation if I wanted to give it more of a blue tint, or get rid of saturation if I wanted it to be a little bit more gray. So again, this is where we can kind of play with it here, and again, making it a little bit lighter or a little bit darker. And so once I kind of get it the way I want, I like the way that looks, let's say I'm going to go ahead, take this, hit Control D, and I'm going to bring it down, and I'm going to put it right on top of my bottom text too, and line it up how I want it. So what I want is for that whitish part, you know, the very center white line to look like it's going right through the middle of the text, and it does. Got to make sure that this is not overlapping my design in any way. So as long as it's not overlapping my design, it looks good. I'm gonna bring that up. Okay, so I'm liking the way that looks. Let's go ahead. I'm just going to change this from frame up top to mask, and I'm going to download this one more time. Okay, this time it doesn't matter if it's a transparent background or not, so I'm just going to download as is, and then we're going to go ahead and jump over to Photo P. We're going to do a little clipping mask on the text, and then you'll see what this looks like. And so we're almost all done. So let's go ahead, we're going to type Photo P into the browser. So I'm just going to pull up a new page. I'm going to go ahead and do a search for Photo P, which I already wrote there. And I'm just going to go ahead, click the first thing that says Photo P. And so you can already see this is what's going to load. And then from here, I'm going to hit open on computer. It's going to pull up my downloads. I'm going to pick my Bionic hip frame. And so here's my frame. And now what I'm going to do is go to the top left-hand corner where it says File. I'm going to go down to Open and Place. And now I'm going to pick my Bionic hip mask from my downloads. And I'll give it a second. And so now my mask is right over the top of my frame. And so from here, I'm going to go up to the top where it says Layer. And about halfway down, it's going to say Clipping Mask. I'm going to click on that. And there you go. It's going to go ahead and just put the clipping mask right over the top. And so here we go. I can just go ahead now, go to File, Export as a PNG. Give it a sec. It says Bionic Hip Club up here. It's a PNG 4500 by 5400 pixels. And I'm just going to go ahead and hit Save. And then I can jump right back over to Canva. And so that is really all we needed Photo P for, and it really was just that fast. So you can see just how easy that is to do. From here, I can go ahead and get rid of, you know, my masks there. I'm going to open another page to work with just because I don't want to disturb my original in case I need to make some edits to it. So I always like to kind of keep the original there. But let's go ahead and go to Uploads, and we're going to upload file. And I'm just going to upload what I just downloaded from Photo P. So I'll give it a sec. Okay, so there it is uploaded. I'm just going to click on it. I will close this. And so here is my design. Really like it. Bionic Hip Club. I think it looks good. Now all I need to do is I can resize it, center it, make sure that it is exactly the way that I want it. And I think that that looks pretty good. So that is pretty much ready to go. I could put this on a shirt right now. It's got that fun futuristic bionic look. It shows the the bilateral total hip arthroplasty here with the prosthetics. It's a little less than accurate, but it's accurate enough that most people would not, you know, would not think twice about it. And so this would be a really fun shirt for anybody who's had a hip replacement or even a bilateral hip replacement, especially something fun that they could wear to physical therapy or just out around their friends, or a fun shirt that somebody could buy for somebody who's had a total hip replacement, almost as like a get well soon kind of a shirt. And so a lot of fun ways that we could go with this. So I'm just going to go ahead and download it as is. So download transparent background. I'm just going to download page 2. And it is ready to go. And so that is all there is to this. If you have any questions, again, about any of the techniques we've done or any of the niches or sub-niches or anything like that, any print-on-demand style questions, drop them in the comment section below. I do try to get back to everything as quickly as I can. I know several of you have requested videos. I do go ahead and put them on my list. It just may take me a while to get to them, but I do have a list going of upcoming videos that I'm planning on working on. So again, if you have any ideas that you want to see featured, you know, drop it in the comment section below, and hopefully I can get back to it at some point. I will get it on my list. Again, if you're watching this and you like it, please do hit like and subscribe. That helps me out. I am a growing channel. I want to continue to grow and continue to show you guys some cool designs and hopefully keep them relevant to what we're designing for now. So if you haven't liked and subscribed yet, please do share this with your friends, and I hope to see you guys again. That's it for today's video. If you found this useful and would like to see more videos with helpful tips and tricks, be sure to hit like and subscribe and turn on your notifications so you don't miss any of the weekly videos. As always, keep growing and stay creative, and we'll see you next time.